Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here, Golden Opportunities Coaching. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is give practical advice to folks that are struggling with various emotional and other challenges. Today we're going to talk about 5 different concepts or things to think about, focus on, mantras for the COVID virus times. It is so important because I have so many clients who are now in week 6, some week 8, depending on how quick they started in their area of quarantine. And so there are a lot of people who just can't take anymore. They're like completely burned out, miserable, unhappy, and thinking that they can't take much more of this. So what I've put together is 5 things to focus on in this time, because what you focus on you will receive, and what you focus on you will eventually find. And so I can learn new skills, the first thing to focus on in this pandemic. We have so much extra time, right? Many of us are stuck at home for the first time in months or years. And so what do we do with that time, right? We all have the same 1,440, I think it is, minutes, or 86,400 seconds. I know that one. To deal with every day. What can we do with it? Well, we can learn a new skill. Maybe you learn to write. Maybe you learn to play an instrument. Maybe you learn to cook new dishes. Maybe you help your kids with certain things in homework that they need help with if they're going to online school right now. Maybe you learn how to find better balance within yourself with your emotions. Maybe you read books. Maybe you learn how to shoot better video for YouTube if you're a YouTube creator. But the most important thing to do is learn something new, because when you're learning something new, you're unlocking possibility in your brain. And I think, without saying too much, the need for new possibility is essential for our brains right now. We need to believe that expansion is possible. And so when we're learning a new skill, we're doing exactly that. And just a small aside, for those who have asked about my personal opinion, I won't get political here. This isn't the time, place, or venue for that. But suffice to say, with more than a decade of media experience and studying the art of speaking and the art of language for my entire adult life, so more than 20 years, I can honestly say I do not believe the majority of what the mainstream media says. I am very skeptical of what the reports are, mainly because if you chart the linguistic patterns of most reporters and people that are saying certain things, they are in fact using language that, if we look at triggering, if we look at the history of neurolinguistic programming, if we look at core value language, a lot of their language is used to upset, to instill fear, to instill doubt, to instill question, and to instill some sort of panic. And so I invite you to limit the amount of content you consume to at least no more than twice a day when it comes to pandemic-related news. Look, people are going to get sick. Some people are going to pass away. This is not the end of the world. I'm sorry if you are a person that's directly affected by this illness. But the fact remains there are still billions of people on the planet, and only thousands have been affected, maybe a million at most. But a million in the face of billions still isn't very much. It's not to trivialize life. It's to put in perspective that it's not as bad as we're being taught to believe that it is. The second thing to think about in this time is a simple mantra: my body can heal. So much focus has been placed on what if I get sick? What if something happens to me? What if I get the virus? What if I have a secondary condition that makes the virus harder to overcome? Now, to be fair, I have multiple secondary conditions that should make me very fearful during this time. But the truth of the matter is, look, my life is a gift. I accept this truth. Sickness can happen. I accept this truth. My body can heal. I accept this truth. So that even if the worst case scenario happens and I wind up sick, I firmly believe that I can heal my body and that wellness can come back to me. And I think my body can heal is so important, especially for those who have chronic conditions, especially for those who are dealing with anxiety and fear and frustration and anger and angst. If you are in a constant negative emotional state during this time, you are more likely to get sick with the coronavirus or another complicated illness. It's because the immune system drops when the emotions are in a negative, non productive space. So, another thing that's happening is people are hoarding things that they need or think they need: food, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and all sorts of other things. Another major lie in the mainstream media is this lack based mentality. Look, there's always enough somewhere, some way for the needs of humanity as a whole. Now, some people are going to say, well, look at third world countries. Yes, they have more lack, but look at the adaptation that many people in third world countries have to go through on a daily basis just to survive and get their basic needs met. What does this mean? The human race, the human species, is resilient. And so, if your needs are there, the ability to meet them is also there. And focusing on your ability to meet your needs is important. Sure, that might mean you don't eat the whole chocolate cake today. Maybe you divide it up over 4 days. But the fact remains, food, water, shelter, these needs are available for you to meet. These needs are available for you to help your family and friends and neighbors meet, and you are enough to meet them. This fact will always remain. So another thing is, a lot of people are struggling because their go-to hangouts are shut down. I talked with a young lady today, and she goes to a local video arcade, like a Dave & Buster's type of place only, not a chain, on a weekly basis, and she hasn't been in several weeks. And I said, make a list of the things you plan to do when you get out of this. Because eventually they will lift the quarantine, folks. Some people say soon, some people say later, some people say it can't be soon enough. Other people say it doesn't matter when they do it, our economy is messed up, whatever. No matter where you are in the world, they will lift the quarantine at some point. Making a list of the things that you wish to do upon the time that this is done, and prioritizing that list, and looking at ways you've taken advantage of your freedoms before now. One of the big wake-up calls for lots of people during this pandemic is, hey, I used to be able to get in my car and go down to the corner store. I can't anymore. Gee, I took that for granted. Hey, I used to be able to go across town and see my friends. I took that for granted. So making a list of the things that we took for granted before this pandemic can be really useful in helping us to reset gratitude, and actually, for folks with emotional and mental illnesses, can actually help to reset some of the positive endorphins that go through the brain that allow for healing of the neurosynaptic function of the brain, which means this is a great time for reset away from panic-based illnesses and into empowerment. The final thing that people need to realize is this. I want you to go through a small exercise with me as you sit, and perhaps even pausing this audio might be helpful. But I want you to think about the last time you really overcame something huge. Maybe you lost a job, maybe you lost a loved one, maybe a relationship ended unexpectedly, maybe you were sick in another way, maybe you had a major test. I want you to imagine what it was like the very moment you realized you'd overcome that challenge. And understand that you still have the overcomer power within you. I think so often that people focus on what they can't do in something like this pandemic. I can't, control whether my friends and family and children get sick. I can't control whether I am susceptible to losing my job. I can't control being furloughed. I can't control being unable to pay my bills. I can't control, and it goes deeper and deeper. But here's the thing. You still have the intrinsical nature of being an overcomer. You still have that nature within you, and it's not going anywhere. So the important thing to remember and the important thing to consider is that who you were before this in strong points, you still are. And who you are before this in weak points, you still are, but you don't have to be walking away from it. This is a great time to reset and reevaluate your life. And as you do that, you'll begin to embrace what this virus may have actually come for, which is an opportunity for the human race to rise to the occasion and come away better from this than before we entered it. I invite you to, if you need assistance, please feel free to reach out. Scott Golden on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at PO Perception, or you can send a message through the YouTube direct message system. If you want a direct session, we can do that. We are doing the $50 reconnection special. Anyone who is new to services during this time will be locked in at the $50 rate during the terms of our relationship. I remind you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.